there, Ren Faire fans, and welcome to another episode of Ren Talks. I'm Victoria Van Arnam.
And I'm Nicole Skelly.
And I'm Olivia Harding.
And today our special guest is, once again, we're joined by Melissa Arleth of Cirque du Soleil. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hiya.
Oh boy. So we've got some fun things to chat about today. I've heard that you've been on the America's Got Talent. Well, our very own Olivia has a bit of a story about her experience there as well.
I feel like my story is only to illustrate how impressive it is to actually get on America's Got Talent. And I say that because I'm going to start by talking about an a cappella group that I'm in. And I'm not going to boast about, it's not boasting because I'm just setting the scene, but I'm part of a pop electronica a cappella group that's won tons of awards, that like has swept a cappella sweepstakes. We've sung with Christian Maldonado from Pentatonics. And we were approached by America's Got Talent, like one of the producers, and they said, oh, you have to be on the show. So we thought, oh, amazing. Like, we're definitely going to get through the first level of this show. And we because you have to have a tiny, tiny little audition. We tightened it up and we show up. And the guy meets us because we were able to skip the line because of this producer connection. He meets us and he goes, oh, you guys are a cappella? Yeah, we don't. Yeah, you're not going to do that well. And we're like, what? It's just, we don't really like a cappella. It's not really, it doesn't really work on the show. And we're like, but we still go and audition. But as we're auditioning, we're realizing like, we don't have a story. Like, we don't have something that's like, makes us interesting. And we're like, oh, and we were listening to the person who's in there before us. And it sounds like any like person who's been on the wedding circuit for a long time, like a classic female wedding singer, probably her late 40s. Like, she has a lovely voice, but it's not like, oh my God, wow voice. But she's in there for a long time. And we're thinking, what's the story here? Like, they're hanging out with her. She seems to be doing really well. And then the door opens and like a 7-year-old girl walks out. And that's the moment that we realized we were like, we have no chance, because we kind of sound like that. And we're like 30-year-old women. And so we did our audition, never heard back, didn't even get past the first level. And so my experience with America's Got Talent.
Wow.
And mine was very, very different, but I turned them down for about 7 years.
Ooh.
Like, every year, like clockwork, another producer would call me, sometimes 2 different producers. I just didn't answer, you know. I had heard enough bad things from variety performers about America's Got Talent. And like, I was like, I have an acrobat trained at circus. It's really hard not to seem like a joke. I don't need to set myself up to seem more like a joke on an international stage. Like, I don't need that in my life. So I didn't do it for many, many years. But I did want to have like some kind of TV, like, you know, like anything you can do to boost your name or to get more fans or to get more known. Like, people know TV. It's impressive if you have it on your resume. And I booked Anderson Cooper's daytime show, which nobody remembers, but for like 2 months, Anderson Cooper was trying to be Oprah. So I went on the Anderson Cooper show. That was my first time on TV with a rat, and the rat freaked out and didn't do the trick. And I like cried my eyes out in the bathroom. And that was the first time I was embarrassed by an animal on national television. And then I booked David Letterman, which was amazing and awesome, but it was like right before he went off the air, and I got bumped last minute. And like, everyone gets bumped the first time they're on Letterman. So all I really remember from that was having, there were 3 different kinds of carrot on the snack tray. Like, the David Letterman behind the scenes snack table had like white carrots and purple carrots and orange. I was really impressed by the carrot.
Wow.
And the check still cleared, but I got bounced from that. And then the Gong Show came along, and I was kind of worried about that because I didn't know if it was going to be like America's Got Talent. But my thought is, like, the Gong Show, they're all about weird stuff. I'm weird stuff. If there's a TV show that celebrates weird stuff, I'm going to do it. So I did that and I had a really great experience. And after all of that, I figured, well, what else is there for variety? The Gong Show went off the air. Like, what the heck? I'll just go on America's Got Talent and they can make fun of me. And most people aren't even going to see it. Even if they do see it, it's just another like line on a poster on my resume, whatever. So I finally agreed to do it. And the first round, I didn't like do an audition. I did, like they've been following my videos for years. So I just went right to taping the first round. And they put me up in a hotel and they reimbursed me for, did they put me up in a, I can't remember now if I stayed overnight for the first day. I think it was like an overnight in a hotel and they put me up, but I wound up driving, which I never do, to the show because we were doing Arizona. So me and Vitaly did like the Sunday night and Sunday we did the show, full fair day. And then after our last show, we were frantically loading the truck with the set so we could drive to LA the next day. And I think the day after that, we filmed the first round. But it's such a blur because I know I was there for a week when I did the second round. But
was that last year, 2019?
Yeah, that was 2019.
Gotcha.
Wow.
Cool.
So, and like, it was weird because when I finally agreed to do it, it was just a weird timing thing where my best friend was in town and I got a phone call and I didn't know the number. So usually I wouldn't answer, but I didn't know her girlfriend's number. And I'm like, what if it's her girlfriend and they're trying to meet me for dinner? I better answer. And I answered the phone and it's like, hi, this is Renee with America's Got Talent. And I'm like, and I kind of like threw up a couple reasons not to do it. And then she was like really quick to say, oh, but you should. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'll do it this year. So that was like the real deciding factor. I just don't say no to people on the phone.
Oh my gosh.
my poor setting of boundaries got me on America's Got Talent, I guess. But like, it was a great experience. And you know, I fully expected them to make fun of me. So when we filmed the first round, and now one thing you won't see is I brought my assistant / musician, Vitaly, and I'm really adamant in my shows that I never use canned music. Like I want live music all the time. I would rather be on a rope playing a tabor pipe or playing a kazoo while using both hands than have canned music. It's just kind of my aesthetic. So I like insisted that I had to do the music with my guitarist and they wanted me to like choose. They sent me like hundreds of possible tracks and I'm like, nope, I'm gonna have my guitarist. So Vitaly came with me and for the first round and he played the song he usually plays and the Rat did the whole obstacle course. And then when they aired it, they totally edited him out.
Yeah, because I watched that.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, I don't remember him being on there.
You'll see him briefly, like backstage, like giving me the thumbs up. And there, if you like pause the video where I'm in the headstand and the straddle split with the rat running across my legs, you can kind of see the shadow of the head of his guitar on my thigh. So we'll pause that and like show his mom, like, look, your son's on TV.
Oh.
So that was, yeah, I mean, like one of the reasons I did it was I figured if I did it and I got past the first round, which I did, that all of the other international Got Talents would hire me and I could get a free trip to like France. And sure enough, I got offers from Romania's Got Talent, Germany's Got Talent, and I was supposed to fly to Italy and do like this break a world record on their TV show. And I had a whole like year of this booked and then COVID happened. So, but I did, last month I did a show for Nickelodeon, which aired yesterday.
Oh, really?
What was it called?
Ooh.
It was called Nickelodeon's Unleashed. And I had to sign up for a streaming service to see it, which I need to cancel later today before they charge me.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we can't just send people to go and try and find this until there's like a.
I mean, I didn't even find it. Vitaly found it for me because he's
oh my gosh
in Russian. He does the tech stuff.
Fair enough. Cool. So you made your Nickelodeon debut without
I
getting
did.
slimed. Well done.
I did not get slimed. I haven't got the check yet, though. So.
Oh, all right. Gotcha. Okay.
And
So
I have
you-
actually a meeting later today for like a TBS show. So like there's definitely a stable of weirdos with animals in LA, and now I'm under that umbrella. So when I flew out last month to Nickelodeon, and they put me in a hotel room, and I like as I'm getting in, the room next to me was this girl. I always forget the girl's name. Her chicken's name is Koa. I want to say her name is Lauren. And I feel like a jerk. I can't remember the trainer's name. I remember the chicken's name. But she also did America's Got Talent. So like we kind of recognized each other coming and going. And I was like, when I did the Nickelodeon show, you didn't get to meet anyone else because you went in your mask and you got your like daily COVID test, and then you're in a room by yourself until you film, and it's very separated. But I like watched the video of the other acts there. So I already know a couple of the other animal acts that were on that show because Weirdos with Animals, it's a small world, like the Ren Faire.
It's your new TV show. You should just make a TV show that you host called
Right.
Weirdos with Animals, and then you get to invite whoever you want.
I think that clearly, I feel like that's what I'm working towards with live streaming is my own reality show.
And if you want to, you can invite just the animals, not the weirdos, because those are the names that you remember.
Oh, there you go. It's just like me interviewing animals and the trainer is in the next room like, I'm right here.
Yeah.
Oh,
I would watch that.
that would be wild. So you went through the first, you made it this for America's Got Talent, you got through the first round and they didn't make fun of you, right? Like it was pretty
Actually, I got a standing ovation from like the whole theater and all of the judges, which I did not expect. So it was very gratifying.
great.
And if you watch the video, it's so cheesy. Like they show like in slow-mo people standing up and clapping and they get like, two girls hugging each other and crying, and I'm like, there's no way that's for me. That was someone else's reaction. Or like they got some really good extras. I'm sure no one hugged and cried about a rat in my audience.
But it was really cool to watch. When I think I watched it when it aired, and I think I watched the video because I shared it on my page, and just every time you're like, yes, I forget which rat you had, but yes, do it, get through it, yeah, you're doing it, like every time. It's so exciting. It's just enthralling, and you're rooting for it to work. And everyone was really like, the judges were super like, wow, that was super impressive.
And then like the second round was so difficult because like when you do like an acrobatic show or an animal training show, every 30 seconds is a minimum of 3 months in a gym, you know? So I have this like elaborate obstacle course that took me literally years to piece together. And they're like, that's great. Do something even better. You have 3 weeks, go. So I kind of had to, and they didn't want me to be on a rope with the rats. They didn't want any rope walking. They didn't want me to bring the cats because they already had cats. So it had to be the rats. And that was when I had the idea to build my New York themed obstacle course. But it was so insane because I was still performing full time. Yeah. And then I was building this New York themed obstacle course, which I had to build, make collapsible enough to put in my luggage, train the rats on, which takes weeks. At the same time, I was training Vitaly to take over for me because I had to miss a weekend. And I was driving from Arizona to Texas. So this was just like 3 weeks, a month of my life where I was losing my mind constantly. And then I got to LA and we had a week to practice it. And it was like I got there and the rats forgot everything.
Oh no.
And I had 4 or 5 days where I had to build most of my set there anyway. Like I shipped it in pieces. So I had a full day of like building the set. And then I had 4 days where I'm walking around in the little black dress, the Breakfast at Tiffany's dress and the tiara, because we would be filming B-roll and reactions. So whenever they didn't need me to like sit in a 40-degree studio and pretend I was warm and having fun. I would like have my screw gun and the tiara, putting my set together and like begging the rats to do this thing. And they were not doing the routine and not doing the routine. And they finally stumbled through it one time the night before filming. So like, as I'm walking on that stage for round 2, in my mind, I'm just like, this is going to crash and burn. This is going to be like 3 minutes of terrible, which I'd already done with my cat on the Gong Show. But she stumbled through it. It was not anything like the routine I wanted. And it's always heartbreaking when you work so hard on something and you know it works or it can work or it has worked, but you've got a minute and a half to show the past 10 years of your work and it doesn't go right. But like, really, the judges didn't say a single negative thing about me. They had to they edited in Simon saying I wasn't ready for the Dolby Theater like later. But while we were doing it, and in fact, I wasn't even there when I got cut because I had to leave early to do school days at Scarborough. So the reaction to me getting cut from that show, they had me film 2 reactions. So I just stood on the empty stage and like, now we want you to pretend that they told you you're going to the next round. And I was like, and I did the happy face and kissing the rat and like, but I'm really nearsighted. So I kind of fell off the stage trying to get down because it was my first time walking off the stage. So when I did the second take, I knew where the stage was. And for my sad I'm cut reaction, I didn't almost fall off the stage. So I sometimes wonder if that decided it.
Because they didn't have decent footage for you to win.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
What you were
no.
saying about like them being like, okay, now make it bigger and change your show. I feel like that's a common thing in any part of the entertainment industry, that people will be like, all right, we like you. You are hired. Now, this is what we want you to do for your show. And you're like, it's not, I mean, I'm going to say yes, because that's how this business works, but that's not exactly how this works. Like, I know, Victoria, you've been put in that position in terms of, we want to hire you, but we're going to make you part of a group with this person who you've never rehearsed with ever before in your life.
I've had that happen to me as like a variety performer juggler, where like, the night before I thought I was hired as a solo performer, and then the person who hired me, I was working at an amusement park in Myrtle Beach, the Redneck Riviera. And they're like, okay, so this is your schedule and these are when your shows are. Oh, and this is Cricket's number. You should get in touch so that your shows have structure. And I'm like, who? What? Wait, I'm performing with someone else? When were you going to tell me?
Wow.
Oh, no.
Jeez. Like, I mean, you expect that from a Ren Faire, but not necessarily from. No, like, it's ridiculous.
It was not a good amusement park.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
My favorite that happened to me was that a different a cappella group was hired to weirdly like just wander around and perform at one of the US Open after parties. And so we got dressed in green, like we were part of the tennis court or something like that. And then they said, so what we want you to do is the brass band that's also wandering around, we want you to like go and meet up with them at random moments throughout the party and then like medley, and you guys sing whatever song that they happen to be playing. And this was like 3 hours before the party, and we're like, there are 6 of us. We can't improvise harmonies to a song we've never done before on the spot to a bunch of music that we've never, like, we don't have a list of, we don't know what's going on.
In a brass key, which means it's in like E flat or something, just like bonkers.
I think the problem is that too many people have watched things like Pitch Perfect where they think that that's off the cuff and that you can suddenly create, your minds can all meld in an a cappella group and you will suddenly sing in perfect harmony a song that you've never sung together before. So a lot of people have that in their head.
It's because they all watched Glee, right?
Exactly.
That's how it works. I did an appearance. It was to promote a Renaissance fair. It was a local like minor league baseball team, and they wanted us to wander around as our Ren Faire characters. And then it was time to like sing the national anthem, just like, so we're in character before everyone's like shuffling in, and we're like saying thee and thou, but also giving out t-shirts. I don't know, it's been a while. So something ridiculous like that. But I very clearly remember the guy gets on like the mic to announce they're going to start. And he's like, and before we start, here to sing the national anthem in the Queen's Ye Olde English is, and they like announce me and the guy, and we look at each other like, we're going to what now?
Oh no. Oh no.
And I think I just kind of looked at him and he looked at me and he kind of did the like, and I'm like, ugh. So he just sort of improvised his way through it because there was no way we were going to both improvise it together. And like,
No.
he just went for it.
Good for him, man.
Gosh.
Jeez.
It's amazing that the miscommunication that happens, or the disconnect, I guess. Not necessarily always miscommunication, but the expectation versus like the reality that we all know, and we're like, this is the norm. And then people who are like, oh, you're just going to translate the Star Spangled Banner into older English or Elizabethan English. Cool. Yeah, you guys do that, right? That's it's all about improv, isn't it? That's what the festival is. And just the not knowing, and you feel almost bad. Like I know I've been in situations similar to that kind of stuff, and I can't think of any right now, but you feel almost bad being like, no, I can't do that. That's not a thing that we do. But also you don't want to be like, yeah, I'll do that. I'm up for anything, because then the next performer that gets put in that situation is going to be expected to do anything as well. And they need to be educated that that's not, we don't do everything.
And
Lots
even
of
though
us
this is
do a lot of things. Go ahead.
even though this is pedantic, the fact that there are also many different forms of improv. Like I remember growing up, luckily I went to a high school where you were taught improv as part of the theater department. Like every week we had a improv review. And so you were forced to, if you wanted to be in the theater department, you were forced to do these things. Like he was like, I don't care if you never want to be an improv comedian. I don't care if you never want to be a comedian at all. You have to do these Comedy Tonight things. And I appreciate that because I was not a funny person. And I didn't do any comedic acting whatsoever. I never thought I was going to be good at improv. And I kind of wasn't, because what they were doing was the situational setup improv, where like a lot of people are really good at just saying things that happen to be funny. And that's not really my thing. And then suddenly my high school teacher put me in the improv musical, where we had a really talented pianist who would just give you bars. And I was like, well, I've been in choirs my entire life, and I know how to rhyme. And then I realized that that's exactly what improv musical is that it doesn't matter if it's funny. If you are making up a rhyme on the spot and kind of sticking within the music, then people will laugh, because it's almost like an impressed kind of laugh. So that, like, I can do one, but maybe I kind of trained myself to do the other at this point, but it's not really my main thing. It's the exact opposite for other people. Like there are people who I'm sure could have like cracked people up talking in character for 30 minutes, but then given a couple bars of music, they would be like, I don't know what's happening.
Definitely.
All of my knowledge of improv ends in like the year 1999, 2000. But I loved my old improv troupe, but we did strictly long form. So like I hate theater sports. I hate watching short form. I feel like the stage goes to whatever dude talks over everyone else the loudest. But if it's the whole troupe is working together to tell a story, if that's the objective, it's a completely different thing. And that was like kind of what I was into, which does not at all translate to being a street character at the Renaissance Fair.
It can. It just depends on if the other people are in on that game too. And they're not always.
You have a higher opinion of the audience than I do.
Oh, I guess I was thinking of cast members at festivals.
Oh,
but
okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm thinking of like you're standing in the lanes and like drunk patrons are weaving their way towards you. Which is why I've like transitioned to having my assistant do all of the hawking for me while I do splits backstage. It's been a huge life upgrade. It actually is something that happened after I did America's Got Talent, and I got my assistant to do my show for me. And then he was like, oh my God, this is the most exhausting thing in the world. How are you not dead every weekend? I only did half the stuff you do. So
Wow. That's a
but
good
yeah,
thing to talk
I
about,
love
though,
not having to hawk anymore.
is how
I hate
Jealous.
hawking.
Yeah, hawking is the worst. How do you guys, both in the immediate sense, meaning hawking and like, my show is starting right now, how do I get people in these seats? But then also in the more general sense of how do I get hired? How do I like make people aware of what I'm doing? I'm curious, like, what things you've done that have not worked and you're like, I'm never doing that again, and what your sort of tricks are there.
You know, in terms of getting hired, I have a little bit of bitterness there because I figured all I need to do is have a high skill level and get huge crowds, and like people will see I'm doing quality work and they'll want to hire me. And for like 5 years, every fair I did, I got the biggest crowds, but I couldn't get any new fairs to hire me. And like, it seemed like I could get hired on the West Coast, but on the circuit in general, like I just wasn't getting hired. And I said, all right, well, I know there's a huge prejudice against solo female entertainers. So as an experiment, I'm going to get a man to walk on stage and hand me a cat and walk back off stage. And sure enough, I got 3 times as many bookings that year. Fairs that would never hire me before suddenly wanted to hire me. And like, I even found out years later, like there was a show I put in for that didn't hire me. And I found out the entertainment director was drunk at a party and said to someone, well, Melissa got bigger crowds than the show I hired, but I couldn't hire her because a solo female can't hold a stage. And I'm just like, what does that mean? What does that even mean?
It's a delusion that person has.
So it's very frustrating for me because I always feel like I'm doing all the things, I'm getting the big crowds, I'm keeping up my skill level, I'm writing original material, I'm going on all these TV shows. Surely that's going to get me hired. And I don't know that it has. There's some metric by which entertainment directors decide to hire people, and that doesn't necessarily work. But all of the work that I do, with the live streaming and being on shows and keeping up social media has definitely built my audience. So at least I have knowing that my audience is there and they're interested in what I'm doing is pretty great. And then as far as hawking, like I have a huge cheat. I don't have to hawk. All I do is stand in the lanes with a cat on a beach or a rat on a beach chair and say, I have a trained rat circus. And people are like, I call it the WTF factor because they're like a rat circus. Oh,
Right.
what the? I gotta see this. And now that I have a cat that will like sit in the lanes and let people pet him, which is my cat Sputnik, like no one is gonna pet a cat and not go see them perform. That's just an audience builder right there. Although I suppose now that we're probably not gonna be hawking in the lanes for a while, like how is this gonna look?
Silver lining of
Yeah.
pandemic season.
Oh my gosh. So I've got a friend who did the Kentucky Fair, and they were able to take over a smaller music stage, so it was just one of those little, like, whatever, 8x8s or something. It had a little top on it. And so he was able to stand on that and, be away from the road and things and yell at people as they went by from a reasonable distance, all masked and everything. While maintaining a like, this is my position, no, don't come close, kind of thing. So that's occurring at this point in time. And I've also heard word from the Suncoast Fair that will that happens in November in Sarasota, that they will be having the cast members work on stages, platforms, small, that are kind of like in what would be a lane, and that they're like different themed stations, and that the cast members rotate through those little mini stages. So I am interested in the development and the professionalization of the street profession. Man, that's a sentence.
That's beautiful.
So to get the people like to, and potentially this will aid the audience in realizing, oh, that person's doing a thing. They're standing on a thing. That means that they must be important somehow, you know. And it's like, all right, that's fair enough, you know. So I dig that, because like if I had a little bitty, like, you know, even a 4x4, I've thought about building them before, but you know, it's a nuisance, and I move spots a lot, so like I'm
And
not
you already
gonna
have
haul.
so much to carry.
Yeah.
I can't carry something else. It's we're maxed out right now with gear, but like you know, to have a little bitty stages, if these fairs will start making, you know, nice little platforms for folk to yell down upon others, I'm all right with that.
I'm a little like, I'm nervous about my street work because for the Gwendolyn Show, one of my shticks is that I give advice, and I just have a sign. People can come ask me any question they need advice on, and it ranges from how many more beers should I have to my son died 2 years ago and I'm not recovered and I don't know what to do. That happened. That a lovely lady, we just talked about grief for like 5 minutes and held hands, and it was touching and amazing, but also like, oh, I feel for you. Like I wanted to be like, here's my phone number. Like, let me know how it's going, but I didn't do that. But because it becomes so intimate, or, you know, people ask questions about relationships, or like, you know, just broke up, what do I do now? Or how do I keep my relationship good? Or what do I do for a career? Or like, it becomes very intimate. So sometimes I end up very close to those people. And as much as I could stand on a pedestal or a short little stage and yell down the random advice, because I have a stock of random advice, if people don't have a question, they can just say random and it's all stupid, ridiculous stuff. I can yell that, but it's not the same level of intimacy. So that's something that I don't want to put myself in the situation of being that close to people on the same level. I don't want to do it with a mask on, because I'm not doing a skill. I'm not playing music. Like, it's all here. My show is here. Well, here, but when it's close up, it's right there. So I don't want to do it with a mask on. And if I don't do it with a mask on, I'm not going to do it because safety.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm really nervous for when it comes back, because Arizona is my first show for next year. And I have 2 shows a day and the rest of it is street. And I have to do the street to make any kind of money. So we'll see what happens.
Well, did you, the last weekend of Arizona, when we were open and like, so we both did the Arizona right before the whole world ended. And I remember like Saturday morning, it was like, well, this is kind of weird. We're opening, but like, it's fine. And it seems like every hour that went by of that weekend, it was more and more evident that we shouldn't be open. And it got like creepier and creepier. And we just didn't hawk in the lanes. We, you know, like, I'm lucky that my stage is dark before I'm on there. So my best, most effective hawking is having a cat jump through a hoop while saying nothing. And then they just wander on over.
Totally.
But like, I didn't really think about, if you are a lane performer, like, how did you deal with that last weekend? Were you in the lanes?
I was in the lanes. Yeah. It was weird. Arizona is a difficult fair for me in general. And last year was my 3rd year there, and it was more difficult than the first 2 years. So I was already like, this is hard and I'm tired a little bit. And then people, you know, everyone for however many weeks before our final Arizona weekend that actually happened, things were shutting down across the country, and everyone on our Facebook, like our Renaissance Festival Facebook groups and Rennie Facebook groups, were all like, we're not going to open, or this is going to be the last one, and all these doomsday people and everything. And so I was already exhausted by that. And then Sunday morning, I feel like someone said something that was like, this is going to be our last day. Or even, I really appreciated, like, Jeffrey Siegel comes to the morning meetings, and he stood on the stage and was like, I don't know what's going to happen. So here's the precautions we need you to take. Like, no hugging, find a way to do your shows without audience volunteers. So I appreciated him being there, and the seriousness he brought to that situation, instead of being like, you're on your own, everything's normal. So there's already that floating around too. So I think I don't particularly remember any one thing about that final weekend, except that it was weird to not be able to hug people and have to like second guess how close I was to people a little bit. And the whole aura of the festival was just a little off.
Yeah, it was a weird weekend. And it was super weird for me because I had, up until that Monday, been frantically preparing to fly to Italy because I was supposed to do that TV show.
Dude. Yeah.
And Vitaly was going to take over for me. And I think originally I was going to like do a Saturday, then drive to LA and then fly to Italy. And Vitaly was going to take over that Sunday. And then I was going to fly back on a Saturday and do the very last Sunday. And before, like, when we still thought I was going, Jeff came up to me a few times, like, are you still going? Like, you know, they have COVID there. And I'm like, yeah, well, they made me sign a waiver and they told me what they're doing to like mitigate the risk. But it was just seemed like it was far away. And it wasn't even in Rome. It was like a different part of Italy that was affected, and it's going to be fine. And Jeff came up to me on like the Friday before Italy closed down, basically. And he was like, you know what? I was thinking you're probably going to be really tired when you come back from Italy. So Vitaly can just do the whole weekend for you. And I'm like, yeah, you just said leave your COVID butt at home. That's what you just said. It's fine. I don't want to do a show either. I'm going to be jet lagged. And then like, so I was still like frantically preparing, but like parts of Italy were closing down. And I remember it was a Monday and I woke up like, so what am I doing today? Am I frantically trying to get ready to go to Italy, or am I like, you know, sleeping in? What? And I was scrolling through my phone and we got the news that they had closed all of Italy. So I'm like, well, like, I guess I'm not going. Might as well day drink. So it was kind of like I was just coming down from like planning for that, because that had been taking all of my mental energies planning this trip, and then it was kind of this huge letdown. But it still felt like, well, this is happening in Italy and we're fine here. And then by the weekend, it was very clear that, oh, it's happening here. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's happening everywhere.
Yeah, and it wasn't exactly happening in Arizona. Arizona wasn't hit right in the beginning. So it was even more weird to be like, it feels normal. It's not normal. It's definitely not normal on the East Coast, but here it's kind of normal.
Yeah.
And that unsettled limbo.
We were both Olivia and I were in Florida, in South Florida during that process. And we had actually, our fair had closed that weekend prior. And so that was a lot, but I had heard,
I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
I'd heard, Melissa, about your planned trip to Italy, and just that schedule to try and manage that. Like, dude, that's super, super brutal. And I'm sorry that it canceled, but hopefully my only wish for you is that you can have that tour and actually get to enjoy being in Italy, because I know that you would be so jet lagged both ways and just in a hurry, and like, you know, like there could be other ways that could work. And I was also supposed to go to Italy in March, like right at the end of, April, the beginning of April. I was supposed to go to Italy, tickets bought. It was going to be my return tour kind of thing, and that just you know.
Well, they had actually, in Italy, they had planned me like 2 days to recover from jet lag. And I was like, I'm going to eat all the gelato. I'm going to gain 20 pounds in Italy. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
But on the other end, there was and I've done this a few times now where I've had to do a full fair day on no sleep because I broke down or I'm jet lagged or something. And it's kind of like the trade-off, you know, like you have to take the opportunities when they come. You know what it is.
Yeah, you do. You got to take them. If they're flying your direction, you got to say yes on the phone, apparently, and then go from there.
Yeah.
Olivia?
I was just thinking about the beginning of, like, thinking about everybody's attitude towards COVID back in March, April, and now, and it's not much has changed except for our certainty about things. And I was thinking that, like, the weird feeling in the air, like, you don't know how dangerous this is. You don't know where it is. You don't, like, I remember driving from Florida to my home and, like, not wanting to get any, even, like, fast food, not wanting to go into gas stations to use the bathroom, like, being terrified every time I did any of those things. And now it's just like mask, hand sanitizer, do your business, hand sanitizer, all right. And like there's now just like this casualness about it. And I was thinking also in terms of I'm glad that we now sort of know that if you're in business with someone, you kind of just have to have them in your bubble. Like I know that when I go to Suncoast, anybody watching this is probably past November, but we're recording this before we're going to Suncoast in November. That my band and probably my stage mates are going to be in my bubble. Whereas I remember in Florida, we had our final weekend where we had our big jam session with all the musicians. We were saying like, we've been in each other's bubbles already. We might as well have this like end of the world party. Let's do it. And then there was a week where we were all separate. And then we had the very first digital Ren Faire broadcast. And so during that week, I'm like, okay, I'm being really safe, but like, got to make sure I'm separated from everybody else. So then I show up on site to record the first digital Ren Faire broadcast. And I'm like, I'm going to keep away from everyone. And then Mark comes over and he's like, okay, so what do you have there on the camera? Is it? And I'm like, well, that's out the window.
Yeah, those first days were a little dodgy. We didn't quite have anything squared around. And we were also all still so isolated. Like, I mean, we all used the same porta-johns. So, like, there was no hope. Like, there was no hope. If there had been an issue there, there would have been this. That was not, you know, the way that things function in a campground. For those not familiar with primitive camping styles, it's very close.
Yeah, on a normal fair season, if one person gets sick, at least half the people there get it. Like, disease is just I mean, I feel like I'm a Rennie 1%er because I have a trailer in my own bathroom. But like, I'm still backstage. I still catch whatever flu is going around most of the time. It's just when you're that close to that many bodies, it's so hard not to.
Yep, absolutely.
So, sorry, not to like throw those of you about to go doing a fair into a panic or anything.
No, I'm specifically, and in terms of being a Rennie 1%er, I specifically said that like I'm not doing any festival where I won't have safe access to running water, where I can't, like, if there, at first Asian Mark were saying, well, why don't you set up a tent next to our trailer? And I was like, no, I don't care if I'm spending a ton of money. I'm getting an Airbnb because I need a place to be able to bathe and isolate myself. Yeah, it's a whole new world.
Wow. Do we have a pivot topic to talk about so we can have a happy ending of the program? Yeah, because I think it's getting on towards dinner time, and we gotta finish on a scoop, but we gotta have a happy ending.
Like, what time is it?
I know, right?
Then I remember dinner means different things to different people. Maybe we can, let's see, if we go from, well, if we were talking about like how close the community is, we started the first, like, we had a discussion about Bazaar. Do we want to talk about Funky? Because people might not know about it.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, that or like the rescue rallies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, let's do rescue rallies.
Okay.
What were you going to say, Melissa?
I think probably most of us are here doing this because the community in general sucked us in and was like a lovely, positive, beautiful place that you wanted to be a part of. However disillusioned with it you might get when you're older.
No, that's beautifully said. Like, I'm like, okay, we don't need to talk about it because you just said everything we would have talked about in like a little nutshell. Cool. Next topic.
Well, that's a very good skill to have. But yeah, definitely for sure. Because like it's absolutely brutal. You know, like you just described your schedule for some of your trips and things. Like I've done some bonkers like back and forths to different states while I'm at a show to just like do other things or visit other people or take care of family needs. Like the things that you have to do to survive and perform and to maintain your art are very, very difficult. And, you know, I know that when I'm at fairs where I don't have all of my buddies, you know, because sometimes you just don't know folk in a fair. And it's like, oh, so lonely, would like to talk to, okay, no, I just go play video games. All right, you know, which like, that's fine. But like it definitely not being able to like do a debrief after a fair day or something like I want to just like get to visit with my friends because that's what really we get to share with each other that a lot of, you know, people who live regular 9-to-5 jobs might not have that same experience as much because they're so atomized. You know, they come home, they are at home away, whereas we go work sometimes separated, and then when we are back at camp or wherever, we are all together, and then this is so good together.
And I was recently talking to someone about the phenomenon of, and I know, Nicole, we've talked about it, people saying to performers, especially during COVID, just get another job. Just like, why aren't you, like, it's not a big deal. Yeah, you can't like play pretend anymore, just get another job. And there's two things I say to that. One is, as Melissa has told us, like the amount of training that goes into some of these jobs at the Renaissance Festival, you wouldn't tell the people any other profession that requires that much money and time and like bodily exertion to just go get another job and like start from the beginning. But then secondly, you have to think about, why the heck would we put ourselves through all this pain and suffering, traveling across the country, getting very little pay, living in these places, like mobile places? Like, why would we do that? And the answer is that the community and the joy that we get from it makes us believe that any other life would not be life, that we cannot live any other way. And so when people like think about that, that's what you should consider before telling someone just get another job. It's like, there's a reason why we are where we are, despite all the uncertainty and all the hassle.
And I feel like at this point, I feel like at this point too, in the progression of the pandemic, so many of us have pivoted to virtual stuff. And I know Melissa mentioned to me, and I feel the same way months ago, like, we're not working, but we feel like we're busier than ever between the live streams and all that. And my mom has mentioned to me that I'm working a lot more than I would during a festival. And I am definitely clocking more hours during the week. And so several months into the pandemic, when we've all created these virtual online presences and we're juggling so many different things, trying to keep up our brand so that when everything starts up again, we don't lose any ground. At this point, like, I don't have time for another job. Like, I don't have time for a real person job. And so,
Right?
and maybe I would make more money doing a real person job, but then I completely lose my festival job. And if I lose that, do I have any hope of coming back when festivals start up again? And you have to weigh that. I mean, for me, it weighs much heavier on the keep my show stuff going side. But on top of the years that we've spent writing our shows and practicing our shows and working on our skills and everything, and now on top of that, we've had 5 to 8 months of pivoting our skills, learning some new skills, learning the technological stuff, and creating an online presence that we would have to just drop if we were to be like, cool, we get another job.
I don't have any other skills. What the heck?
You have so many
for
skills.
goodness sakes, woman, how many hours? Show us.
10,000 hours. Wait, you can see
How
it.
many hours? 10,000 hours.
10,000 hours.
Amazing.
But like, I've spent most of the past 15 years training for 3 to 5 hours a day, like rope walking and juggling and handstands, right? Like I've maintained a little bit some of the visual skills, but if they don't need rope walkers, they probably aren't going to need people to make hand-painted circus banners either. And
that's 3 to 5 hours just on the skills, not on the marketing those skills and preparing those skills and
props and costumes and
no, that's a whole other thing. And not even like the animals per se, because it's like, okay, I usually do like a P90X3, so I get my weight training in, or like some cardio. Then I've got like a half-hour ballet bar just to keep those muscles. And then it takes like 45 minutes for me to stretch all the way if I want to keep doing splits when I'm 50, which is the goal. And then I have like an hour of rope bar. I've been doing half an hour with Vitaly, training him how to like pass clubs. And there's just so many like weird circus skills I've lost, like unicycle or rollabola or like hooping, because I just a couple of years, like 5 or 6 years ago, I said, you know what? I don't want to train for 3 to 5 hours a day the rest of my life. I want to train for like 1 to 3 hours a day. I got to like drop a bunch of them. But that's what I've been doing. So it's not like I've also been learning, I don't know, data entry. What do people do? What do they
right?
I don't know.
Yeah. And I was actually thinking the same thing, that even as a musician, like I always think like I need to practice guitar, I need to practice accordion because those are new, those are foreign to me. But recently I got lazy because usually during a fair week, at least twice every week, I am doing a full half an hour vocal exercise. And I like, if you ask Dylan, Victoria, Dylan once, he said, do you want to carpool? And I said, yes, but just so you know, I do my vocal exercises in the car. Is that okay? And he goes, yeah. And then afterwards, I'm done. He just goes like, I gotta say it, that was a little scary. Because everything from here. But I stopped doing it for a while during COVID because of exhaustion and just done with the worldness. Mm-hmm. And then I just, for funsies, picked up, like, if anybody knows The Messiah, like Refiner's Fire, that bit used to be my jam. Like I'd sing it every Christmas. And there were some of the runs that kept getting stuck in my throat. And I'm like, this is after only a couple months of being lazy. And so even something as simple as singing, everybody does it for everybody's birthday. Like you have to recognize the amount of skill that's going in every day to keep something up like that.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, it's a physical skill. Like your muscles atrophy if you don't use them every day. Even for me, if I don't do like splits and over splits every day, like that's just a normal range of motion. So if I go 2 days without doing splits, then the third day I notice it a whole lot. It's like if you went a whole day and didn't raise your arm like that for 2 days, then like when you go to raise your arm, it's going to be stiff. It's kind of like that, only like I'm in a split. But then sometimes it's hard to motivate to train. I don't know if you have this, but I'm like getting ready for my day and I'm tired and I'm grumpy and I'm sucking down coffee so I can go walk on a rope for an hour. And I'm like, why am I even bothering? Am I ever going to do this again in front of a crowd? Is the fair ever coming back? If it is, am I going to get hired? Am I too old to even maintain these skills? So, oh wait, did I bring it down again? I made it sad again. We were trying not to end it already.
No, it's okay because we're all
okay.
like, I'm
It's
having
okay.
that too.
We're right there.
Yeah,
we're
we're all
right there. Yeah,
it's a constant question, and we don't know. There's no way to predict what's going to happen, and it changes on a daily basis. And there's going to be whatever happens next month. So,
but the awesome thing to turn it around is that we know that again, this community will always be there for each other. Like helping rescue run their virtual rallies has been so lovely. Seeing members of our own community who are hurting and suffering, still trying to help others because they know that somebody is suffering more. Like I'm going to bring up Louis cracked me up in the middle of a rescue rally because I was helping run the virtual comments. And if you know who Louis, he's in London Broil, but he also has Little Empire where he creates like what's the exact
gaming accessories and artifacts.
And he was on there as Little Empire and as Louis. And if people don't know that he runs both, they wouldn't realize this, but he was betting against himself in one of the funniest like betting wars I've ever seen, where he was like, all right, you're pulling my leg. I guess I'll up my bet again. And like was talking to himself in the comments back and forth, just so that like this one item could get more money for Rescue, this organization that helps members of our community in need. And I'm like, yeah, he's still making his gaming devices, but he's also out of a job. Like, this is beautiful to watch.
It's fun.
Very sweet.
It's a good community. There's just some good people.
It is.
It's mostly all good people.
Mostly, yeah. And very resilient too, able to deal with, is it hailing today? Well, I guess, I'm gonna have an extra umbrella or not perform in the hail, like pick one.
And some of the best performances sometimes come from those days because the kind of adrenaline that rushes not just through the performance, but through the audience is insane. Like I remember talking to some fans recently about what they called the soap tent set, where in Brevard it started pouring down rain, and then we just went like, everyone into the soap tent, and like would sing a song and then write a song about the soaps to sort of thank the soap people for letting us use their tarp. And like the 10 audience members who stuck around, most of them not even in the tent, but just like drenched with rain and just stuck around, still talk about like those moments that happened. So it's a special kind of adrenaline with live theater that happens at these festivals.
I find rain days
that only come when it's raining because they like watching me suffer.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's like sometimes the fans are like, "Oh, we love rain days because the performers do something completely different," and I'm like, "Yeah, we stand in the rain and get soaked because you're here. Go home, go home,
Seriously.
please."
Like it's starting to rain and I am plugged in and on the stage with like a full other band doing a performance. Like I cannot stop right now. Thank you. Okay.
I've had the heavens open and like pour down while I'm on the rope. So
Oh.
I'll be taking a step and like, you know how a highway is the slipperiest when it just starts to rain? Like it's kind of like that with the rope because it has decades of my sweat and like oil on it, and not sweat, and it's not cool.
Oh,
We like most of our stuff, like accordion is mostly plastic, though I keep being told, please stop playing that in the rain. It's terrible for the instrument.
Please stop playing out in the rain. It's really bad for the instrument.
Our guitar isn't the most expensive, and like we've been through so many guitars and like we have warranty on it, so we can sometimes play that in the rain. But watching Mark try to save his fiddle when the downpour starts is one of my favorite activities. Like the creativity of this man trying to find just little alcoves where there are none is magical.
And from what I understand, fiddles are both incredibly expensive and super delicate, right?
Yeah.
Like they're like
combo.
shoes. There's nothing holding them together but glue and hope.
Yes. Once anyone
Take
who
some
loses
tissue
hope,
paper.
it's like the opposite of the clap if you believe in fairies. It's like once you stop believing in fiddles, they just fall apart and cease to exist.
we got sad again.
Just about fiddles, though. It's
Just about
fine.
fiddles, though.
It's fine.
Yeah.
We're not fiddle players. That's okay.
I
feel
have
bad
a
about-
violin.
What's that?
I have a
Yeah.
violin.
Do you make cat noises out of it? Because that's
I
what I do
do.
with violins.
I do. When I took the violin and took the class in college, I good. I wasn't like good. Like I did good in the class of very basic violin, but I was like, I like this. I'm going to get a violin. So I bought a violin. I played it 3 times and the bridge fell out, but I put it back.
Oh, no.
No, you can put it back.
You didn't believe in it. You didn't believe
I
in it.
didn't
enough.
know. I
You
didn't know.
have enough hope.
I didn't. I thought it was okay. But now I talk to it in my closet. Violin, you good? Cool, okay. Next to
I
the
think
guitar I don't play and the trombone.
Violin people, and I don't mean people who play violins, I mean people who take care of violins, make them, treat them. They are a similar breed, I think, to horse people, where if you hurt accidentally or otherwise a violin, then these people will basically become your worst enemies. Because I remember interacting with multiple of these people because my sister played violin for a hot 2 years before these people drove her nuts and she refused to play anymore, where the number of times, because she would always rent them because they're very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like an 8-year-old girl and she would bring them back and they'd be like, the bridge is warped. What did you do? And this poor little girl would be like, I'm playing the violin. I don't know.
Oh my God. My first instrument was piano. And my mom, it's the piano my mom had growing up that she had to take lessons on that she hated and she never got good. But she put tape on the keys and labeled the letters of the notes. And so that's how I learned to read music. But because it was the first, taught myself to play, I love the piano. I am so sad when pianos are destroyed in TV or movies or even if it's for comedy. I don't care. You don't throw a piano out a window. It's never going to be funny.
I never like the
sad.
gag where someone hits someone over the head with a guitar. That that bothers me.
Though, if it's a guitar that's pathetic and will not stay in tune, that I enjoy. We once destroyed a guitar, and it was one of the most satisfying times of my life because there was just something wrong with and even though I play the guitar, I'm terrible with the terms, but the way the strings are lined up against the fretboard, and just no matter what you did, this thing would not stay in tune, no matter what environment you were in. And we tried to take it back to Guitar Center because it was still under warranty. And they're like, no, unless there's actually damage on it, then we can't return the guitar. And we were like, challenge accepted.
Damage, you say?
And that's all I'll say for insurance fraud reasons.
Oh man.
All righty then. Thank you so much for joining us here, Ren Faire fans, and we look forward to seeing you in the future. My name is Victoria Van Arnam, and I perform as the Lady Victoria.
And I'm Nicole Skelly, and my show is The Gwendolyn Show.
And I'm Olivia Harding, and I'm Liv the Druid from Music the Gathering.
And joining us today, we have Melissa Arleth of Cirque du Soleil. Goodbye, ladies!